Hi guys, Dave here, G7IYK. I thought I'd put together this little video and probably some further examples of how I've got my shack set up and how I remotely control my shack. I suppose the motivation for doing this was that during the course of travels through the internet, I've come across quite a lot of guys asking questions about how you control this, how do you control that, what does this port do, how do you make this work. And I had similar questions. I wasn't immune to the same. I had the same questions, and over time I've sort of built this control environment up, and having tried many different options, some more successful than others, especially from a software point of view, and now I think I've got a setup which works well and is rock solid. It always works. I don't get things dropping out, falling over. I found the right combination of software which seems to work, and it works well. So I thought so I've done this rather than attempting to explain it, which would be near impossible. I decided I would paint a picture and then go through the picture. Now I know there's going to be people that go, oh well, you could have done it this way or you could have done it that way. True. I mean, there's lots of different ways of skinning the same cat. I'm not saying there isn't. This is the way I've done it. If you want to do it a different way, knock yourself out. But this is the way I've done it, and it works. So I just thought it might be useful for anybody, especially somebody that's maybe just got a 7300 ICOM 7300, or any other rig for that matter. I mean, this is not just ICOM 7300 centric. I mean, you can apply this to plenty of, I would say, modern rigs, with cat interfaces and that type of stuff. Maybe not so much the older rigs. So anyway, without further ado, let me just explain the sort of color coding here, or at least is the way I decided to color code it. So everything here is shown in blue, or this sort of light blue color. That's hardware. So we got obviously the ICOM 7300, and we got a tuner and a PA and power supply and PCs and stuff. That's all hardware. And then the stuff in yellow is software. So servers and display software, logging software, that type of business. The interconnects, the stuff shown in red, well, it's quite clear what that is. That's RF. So that's that's not data. That's RF from the radio and out, and ultimately to the antennas. Excuse me. The light blue lines are more, they're the sort of control interfaces. The purple lines down here are power, obviously. And then on this sort of cloudy thing up here in kind of a orangey terracotta color, that represents my house LAN. It's not wireless, it's a wired LAN. So that's about the size of it. So let's just, so I think I'll start with the RF side of things and then move on to sort of control. So here in the center is my the ever popular ICOM 7300. I can't really recommend the 7300 highly enough, really. I mean, I'm not a great connoisseur of HF radios. I've only had, I think this is my third. But prior to that, actually, I had a Yaesu. I had the ever popular 450D, which was a great radio. And then I jumped ship and moved to the ICOM 7300 just based on volume of reviews, really. And I have to say, it's been fantastic. I mean, I know it's peddled as a peddled as an entry level radio. I'm not sure about that, as I've never really used any of the really high-end radios. But for what I do on HF, which is multi-band HF, maybe a little bit of contesting and generally having a bit of fun on there, nothing too serious. I think it's fantastic radio. I don't think you can go far wrong with a 7300. So yeah, I say I haven't got experience of anything more sophisticated or more expensive. For me, it does everything I want and more, so I can't see any point in upgrading. So what I have done on the 7300, which was one of the first things I did, was I bought a PRRX 7300 pan adapter. Now, for those that don't know what a pan adapter is, it's basically a little board that actually is fitted inside the 7300. It's really easy to fit. You don't need to go soldering things or removing components or anything like that. This PRRX 7300 from Radio Analog, a company called Radio Analog. You do have to take the top off the 7300, and this board is specifically designed to fit in the 7300, so it fits like a glove, and you literally unplug a couple of RF cables, plug them into this pan adapter, and then a couple of retaining screws, put it all back together, and that's it. So there's no soldering or anything like that involved. You're not going to wreck your radio. It's dead easy to fit in. It takes longer to take the cover off of the radio than it does to fit the pan adapter. So what does it basically do? Well, the pan adapter is essentially a high impedance RF board, which is hooked into the receive chain of the ICOM 7300. The only the only negative point of the 7300, I think, and I think is something that should have been included and wasn't, is the ability to take the receive either RF or the IQ digital data from the radio directly out. Considering the fact it's an SDR based radio, I wouldn't have thought it would have been too difficult for ICOM to have allowed us to get access to the internal complex sampling, or at the very least a 50 ohm RF output. So that's what the PRDX7300 does. It sits there on the RF receive path. It has a high impedance input, so it doesn't adversely affect your receive sensitivity or load your receive path. It just sits there. As far as the ICOM 7300 is concerned, it probably doesn't even know it's there. And it sniffs off the receive RF, and then that RF comes out through the back of the ICOM 7300 via the PRDX on an SMA connector. So you're thinking, well, okay, great. Well, why would you want to do that? Well, the main reason is I wanted to, although I love the display, the display on the ICOM 7300, the waterfall is fantastic. I wanted something on a little bit more sophisticated that I could see on my PC, and I'll give a demonstration of this later in the video after I've whittled on about this block diagram, if I ever get through it. So what I already had an SDR play RSP2 over here, external SDR radio, receive only. They're really nice. I bought it several years ago, before I got the 7300 actually, and it's just, it's like, small, very good quality SDR radio. No, that's nothing more you can say about it really. And it has an SMA input for antenna. So essentially, now you've got this pan adapter fitted to the 7300. You can hook an SDR radio to that. I mean, I'm using the RSP2, but there's plenty of other SDR radios out there you could use. I just happen to be using this one. So you hook that to the output of the RF. That connects via USB to the Shack PC. And then I can use, ultimately, when I'll go through this in a bit more detail, but ultimately the control software that visualizes the output of this SDR radio is our SDR Uno. That's what the software is called, that hooks to the RSP2. So you get basically the upshot is you get a really high quality, high speed waterfall and spectrum on your PC that with appropriate control allows you to just literally click around. You can see guys coming up, you can see signals popping up, and you literally just click on them and the radio just follows. It's dead easy. I'll just do a demonstration later. It's easier to demonstrate than it is to talk about it. Anyway, so that's why I've got a pan adapter fitted, so that I can get a better visualization of the band, where everything is, and a really good quality waterfall plus control. So that's that bit. And then RF, this is your sort of, I suppose, your traditional RF out. This is coming from the back of the 7300. Would normally, under normal circumstances, be hooked directly to your antenna or a dummy load if you wanted to do some testing. In my case, I've got it hooked to an ACOM 700S linear power amplifier, which is a thing of beauty. And yeah, so that'll do up to 700 watts. I don't run it at 700 watts because the UK limit is 400, but I decided to go for the larger one because I didn't want to stress it too much by running it at full whack, and also it future-proofs me for, just in case the regulations in the UK change and at some point in the future we can push more power. I've got a little bit of headroom, so that was the reason for going for a slightly beefier one. So the output of that goes into an 8100 Pro antenna tuner. Again, that's rated at 1 kilowatt, so can more than handle the maximum output power of the PA should I ever push it to 700 watts. And that's got a nice feature in that it has 2 antennas on the back, so I can I've got a 130 foot end fed on one antenna, and I've got a homemade 6-band hex beam on the other antenna 1 and antenna 2. So that's basically the RF. Yeah. Okay, I'll just pause for a second. Oh, much better after a drop of tea. Okay, let's talk about power. Okay, so power wise, I have a 30 amp power supply. I use a linear power supply. I can't remember the name of it. There's hundreds of them around. Yeah, I've gone for linear rather than the switch mode. Then I have to worry about noise. That obviously is 240 volts in, well not obviously, but it is 240 volts in and then 13.8 volt DC out into the ICOM. Now what I've done is I've got an Alexa switch on the front of it, which is just like a little wall plug thing that's hooked to you know, the Alexa thing in the house, and that allows me to effectively turn on and off the radio remotely. So I can just ask her to turn on the radio and she'll switch on the power supply, and then I've got the radio set up so it powers up automatically. So that's the power supply side of things. Okay, so I suppose let me have a look. Let's just deal with the left-hand side to start with. I'm not a CW operator. Far too stupid to do CW. I have tried, but my brain won't permit me to learn. Anyway, but I do have this isn't a CW paddle or anything. I've just put a little switch in a box basically, and I've got that connected to the 7300 on the key input on the back, which is I think a 1/4-inch jack socket from memory. The only reason I've got that is so that if I want to do any tuning up or tweaking of my RF chain and I need a CW, I can just flick the radio to CW and then I can just pull the switch on the little box and it will just transmit a CW tone. It's just convenient rather than blatting out AM or FM. I can just transmit a tone. So that's the only reason that's there. It's more for tuning up and for tweaking my power amplifier. Okay, so let's talk about the ICOM 700S. So as I've already talked, it's got an RF input. That RF input is just, in my case, because you only need about 15 watts to drive the 700S. So this is just basically a RG48, RG48? Yeah, oh, I don't know if I've got that. I can't remember the cable number. You know what I mean. The thinner version of the RF cable. I can't remember what it's called now. It's gone out of my head. Do apologise. Anyway, now I've got a custom cable. Well, not custom cable. It's an off-the-shelf cable, but it's designed to control the power amplifier. So it's just I think it's just an ICOM 700S compatible CIV remote cable. So this CIV is what ICOM call Computer Interface Version 5. That's what that stands for, Computer Interface Version 5. It's CAT control basically. So the cable I've got has got a plug on one end, a 3.5mm plug, which goes into the remote socket on the back of the ICOM 7300. That's basically effectively a serial interface, an RS-232 serial interface, which is controlling the band of the radio, the band of the power amplifier. So as I change bands on the ICOM, the ACOM linear PA will follow suit. So that's basically cat control. And then there's another connection from the back of the radio, which is the ACC port. And from what I can make out, I think that all that's being used for is automatic power up and automatic power down of the linear PA. So when my ICOM 7300 powers up, the ACOM 700S linear PA powers up automatically. And then vice versa, when I power the radio down, it then powers down the ICOM 700S. Okay, tuner control. Now, there is a dedicated port. I forget the name of the connector. It's marked in the ICOM 7300 manual as tuner control because that's what it does. Now what happens is when you this is an interesting one, when you if you buy a PR RX 7300 pan adapter, it uses the hole, if you like, in the back of the 7300 to output its RF. So that could have the unfortunate effect of you losing your tuner control, but luckily the guys that designed the pan adapter have thought about that. And what happens is, although it uses the hole on the back of the radio to output the RF, what they've done is they've provided a small like a little Molex socket next to the RF connector, which takes the place of the original tuner control. And then when you buy the pan adapter, the PR RX 7300, they provide you with a little patch lead. The little patch lead plugs into the small Molex connector, which is part of the pan adapter, and it extends that out to give you exactly the same connector that was originally on the ICOM 7300 for tuner control, if that makes sense. So you don't lose tuner control just because you fitted the pan adapter. They thought about that, and it works perfectly. So there's a cable which is called an LDG. My tuner is made by LDG Electronics, and it's called an IC Pack 6 cable, and it literally just plugs into the tuner control on the back of the radio via this little patch lead in my particular case, and then it plugs into the tuner. And what that does, it's quite nice, is that it first of all, it powers the tuner. So you don't need any external power supply for the tuner, and also it controls the tuner. So again, when the 7300 comes up, the linear power amplifier is switched on via the ACC, and the tuner control connection automatically powers up the AT1000 Pro antenna tuner in my particular case. So all this comes up together automatically. You can even set the ACOM 700S to come up in operational mode as opposed to standby if you want. So if you were operating remotely, that would save you having to push the button on the front. So yeah, it's all works really well. So that's kind of that side of things, really. Let me just pause it a minute while I have a drink of tea. Okay, back again. That's better. Now on the right hand side, I've covered the RSP2 SDR and the reasons for it. Here below it, we've got another CIV or a computer interface Mark V cat connection, because I want cat control. So cat control allows my PC over here to completely control my radio, all aspects of my radio. There's no point listing them, all of them. So it's interesting with the 7300 because you've got two cat interfaces here. I've got one that's going out to the ACOM 700S, and I've got one that's going off to the PC. Now they're completely separate physical connections on the back of the 7300. This CIV remote connection looks like a 3.5 millimeter jack socket on the back of the ICOM. This connection going off to the PC is a USB port. just standard sort of USB connection. So what you can do in the 7300 under the menu systems is you can split the cat control. So you can basically run this cat interface, the USB interface, and this remote interface completely separately at different baud rates. So for example, this connection going off to the PC, I've got running at 115/200 baud. So basically as fast as it will go off to the PC. But this cat connection over here going to the ACOM 700S is just running at your bog standard 9600 baud. It doesn't need to be fast to talk to a PA. It's only changing bands. So in the menu system, I might cover that in another little video as part of this overall video. You can split the cat control, and it's dead easy to do. You just uncouple the remote from the normal USB cat connection, and then you can give it its own attributes, including baud rate. So anyway, so yeah, this is the CIV USB main primary cat connection to the PC. Okay. So as I say, there's a PC here, bog standard. In fact, there's nothing fancy. It's just, in fact, I'm looking at it now. It's an old Elite desk, HP Elite desk. Picked it up for I don't know, about 100 quid off of eBay. Works perfectly well. No issues with it whatsoever. In fact, it's doing this video recording at the moment. So let's discuss the horrors of software. Okay, so all this yellow nonsense down here is software in my shack, basically, as is the stuff above actually, but we're talking about this stuff down here. So there's lots of different pieces of software out there for controlling radios. I've tried a lot. I don't know if I've tried all of them, but I've tried quite a few. And I settled on a PC software-based control system called Win4ICOM. Now there's also a Win4Yaesu as well. So if you just Google Win4ICOM, it will take you to the website. In my opinion, it's one of the best pieces of ham-based control software I've personally come across. It's fully featured. It's absolutely, the most important thing is it's rock solid. In that it doesn't fall over, it doesn't crash, it doesn't do mad things. It's really stable. It's never let me down, and it comes with a whole raft of other bits and bobs and plugins, which I'll cover in a minute, which make it invaluable. Now you can get control software for the ICOM from ICOM. I forget what it's called now. They do their own control software, but it's quite expensive. I mean, we're talking hundreds of pounds from what I remember, or in that sort of ballpark. In my opinion, that's not good. Considering that ICOM sells so many radios, and there must be, I don't know how many 7300s in the world, God knows, pick a big number. You would have thought that ICOM would give you the control software for free, not charge you another 100 and something pounds for the privilege of remote control. So, but I suppose that's up to them, but I think it's a mistake. Anyway, so I wasn't prepared to pay for it. So I decided I would support this guy. I think I'm not sure if he's a one-man band, but I think maybe he is. But he's clearly talented, and he's written Win4ICOM, and it's great. So it's not free, and I don't have a problem with that. I think it's $60 for a permanent lifetime license, and as far as I'm concerned, that's worth every penny. So. And why wouldn't you charge? So anyway, so Win4ICOM is the control software that I use to control my radio. So pretty much I don't really touch my radio. It sits over in the corner of the shack, and everything I do is using Win4ICOM. That connects to my PC over a COM port, running at 115/200 baud, as I've said. So that's control software. So now we've got all this stuff down here. So as I said before, I predominantly spend most of my time when using the radio using SDR Uno, which is visualizing my the band as a spectrum and also as a waterfall, and allows me to change bands and do all sorts of other stuff. So that needs to talk to, well, that basically needs to talk to the radio ultimately. So Win4iCom's got a really nice feature where you can, you know, he's built in the ability or thought about the fact that you're going to want to control other pieces of software, third-party software from your main control software suite. So what I've done is I use another piece of software called Com0Com. All Com0Com is, you could think of it as just, I think of it as just bits of serial wire. So, for example, in this particular case, Win4iCom connects to Com16. Com16 is forwarded to Com17 through this piece of software. It also Win4iCom also connects to Com18, and Com18 is then connected to Com19 through this piece of software. So this is just like as if you were plugging a cable into Win4iCom and then plugging the other cable into N1MM, the logging software, and then another cable into Win4iCom and plugging it into Omni-rig. It's just a cable. It's a software equivalent of a bit of wire or a serial cable. So that's all that is doing. And you just set up COM port pairs 16, 17, 18, 19. You connect one end to whatever you want to do the controlling, and you connect the other end to whatever you want to control. Dead. That's all that's doing. So on COM17, which is the partner of COM16 in here, I've got my N1MM logging software, and I only use that if on the odd occasion I do a little bit of competition stuff, a little bit of little DX competitions, you know, that can pop up on the weekends. I quite like to do that sometimes, and I use N1MM because it produces all the right file formats for uploading to the to their servers for logging your contests. So that's sort of hanging off of one of those COM ports. The other COM port is connecting to Omni-rig. Now I expect everybody probably knows what Omni-rig is. Omni-rig allows you to control multiple radio. It basically allows you to connect a radio to multiple pieces of control software, and they can all then control the radio. So in this particular case, I've got Omni-rig controlling SDR Uno, which is my main bit of software, as I've said several times now, for displaying my waterfall and my spectrum. So I can click on bands, click anywhere in the spectrum on SDR Uno. That information is fed up through Omni-rig through this COM port forwarder to Win4iCom. Win4iCom then forwards it to the PC. The PC then controls the radio over the CAT interface, and it all just works. And similarly, so then I've also got Log for Old Men, and this is my main kind of like logging software that I use for sort of logging all my QSOs and whatnot. Now, because it's all connected through Omni-rig, if I change frequency in SDR Uno by clicking on the spectrum, move to a different frequency or a different band, Log for Old Men will follow suit. It will change frequency because it's getting that information from SDR Uno over Omni-rig. Similarly, N1MM will also change bands because it's getting that information from Omni-rig. Similarly, Win4iCom will also change bands automatically because it's getting that information from Omni-rig via this connection. And ultimately, my radio will also change bands because it's getting that information of the CAT interface. That information is forwarded over the other CAT interface, causing my ACOM 700S to also change bands, and my tuner will also follow suit. So the whole lot, by changing one band or frequency down here, it percolates up through the whole system, and everything follows suit. That's the beauty of it. It's all totally automatic. And it doesn't matter where you change that frequency. I could change it in Win4iCom, SDR Uno. I could change bands in Log for Old Men. I could change bands on the PA, and everything follows suit. So, yeah, that's the control side down here. Oh, how long have we been going? Cool, dear, half an hour. Bet you're all bored by now. Right, just a little bit more, and then I'll be done. Okay, so now let's have a look at the top bit, because I wanted to one of the reasons I went for Win4 was because it had a very strong feature set in terms of remote control of radios. Well, remote control of radios. I've my shack's quite a long way from the house. If I'm in the house, I want to be able to control my radios and my radio from the house. So Win4 comes with a Win4 server. It literally, you literally just fire it up on the shack PC. It connects to the radio in the same way that Win4 would have done. And then the other side of it connects to the local area network on using an IP address. So that allows me to run Win4. So if you can imagine all of this stuff down here mirrored in the house, then so I've got Win4 in the house, Com0 in the house, Omni-rig in the house, and Log4Old Men and M1MM all installed on my house PC. They just talk to the radio in exactly the same way that all this lot does in the shack. It's exactly the same. The only slight difference is in the house there is an audio client that runs on the house PC, which allows you to send and receive sort of very high quality audio backwards and forwards to the radio via Win4 So there's a little audio client that runs in here. Now there's another slight difference. I really wanted to run SDR Uno. I wanted to have the same SDR Uno control in the house. So I wanted to be able to see the waterfall. I wanted to be able to see the spectrum, do exactly the same control as I would have done if I was in the shack. Now there's a little bit of a problem here, which I've solved. SDR Uno communicates with the RSP2, in my case, the RSP2 SDR over USB. That's how it's connected. Ultimately, it's connected via all this nonsense via USB, and also the not only control over USB but also the high-speed IQ data. So the RSP2 is got an RF input, but what it outputs over the USB is high-speed complex data, which is used by the SDR Uno software in order to display that high quality spectrum and that high quality waterfall. So the problem is how do I get that data all the way into the house? So what the solution I've come up with to do that is I use a piece of software which is free. It's called Virtual Here USB Server. So what that does is there's a server running on the shack PC, and then there's a client running on the Windows PC in the house. And if you can pay for this if you want, but the free version allows you to share one USB port at a time, which is fine because I only want to share one for this particular application. So the free version for me works fine. So by sharing the USB port, you can effectively, SDR Uno connects to this USB port here, which is forwarded over the LAN from this server over here. So ultimately this SDR Uno running in the house doesn't see any difference in terms of control or IQ data than the one that's running in the shack. In my experience, it runs exactly the same. There's no lag, there's no loss of quality in the spectrum or the waterfall or the response time in terms of changing bands or frequencies. It just looks the same. So that USB port forwarding system works really, really well. And I'd say everything else looks the same. Let me think, is there anything else that's worth mentioning? So I've put control and IQ samples up there. Oh yeah, one other thing. Log4Old Men is running here in the shack. It's also running here in the house. So I wanted a common common database, so that any QSOs I log in the shack, I can then see in the house and vice versa. So what I've done is I have a Dropbox account. If you know what Dropbox is, it's cloud-based storage. It's all it is, cloud-based storage. There's loads of them around. I use Dropbox. And so what I've done is I have the database for Log4All-Men stored on Dropbox, and so Log4All-Men up here points to the database file on Dropbox, and so does Log4All-Men down here points to the same file on Dropbox. So any changes that this program or Log4All-Men down here makes to the database is immediately seen by this version up here. So as I add contacts up here, they appear down here, and vice versa. So I think that pretty much covers everything. I know that was a lot of wittering and I probably spoke too fast, but if anybody's got any questions, just let me know. Yeah, I mean, I'm not that bothered about, if somebody says, oh, you should do it like this, or you should do it like that. Well, that's fine. I won't be changing it because I've been running this for quite some time now, and I know it's solid and it works perfectly for me. So I see no reason to change it. Yeah, but if anybody's got any questions about specifically how you set this stuff up, because it is a little bit involved. It's not complicated, but it is a little bit involved to set it up. What I'll do is on the back end of this description, I'll tag some little shorter videos showing, maybe showing how what the SDR Uno looks like when it's running in conjunction with the radio over all this garbage, all this software. That's pretty much all I can show really, is it actually working. I say it's the main thing for me when it comes to all this stuff is especially from the software point of view, is stability. I can't be doing with software that's crashing, that's doing mad things, that's disconnecting all the time. If it doesn't work, and it doesn't work reliably, then I'll just get rid of it and find something that does work, because there's an awful lot of software out there that doesn't work very well, or doesn't work very well in conjunction with other pieces of software. This combination of Win4ICOM and Omni-rig and the Win4ICOM servers, that all works really well. And I think a lot of the reason why this is stable is because Win4ICOM is so stable. If Win4ICOM was ropey and unstable, then everything else would just fall apart. But it's not. It's very, very stable. So I think that holds everything together, and it works really well. Anyway, thanks for watching. I might post a bit more. So feel free to ask questions. Yeah, Dave here. G7IYK clear. Hi guys, Dave back again. G7IYK. I thought I'd do a quick demo on the back of my previous part of the video, looking at the block diagram showing SDR Uno and Win4ICOM, and probably steady on sir, tuning up, and pull in Log4All-Men while I'm at it. Excuse me. So this is 20 meters, so we're looking at 14 meg to 14360 here. I'm trying to get away from people that are talking. It's getting a little bit busier now, perking up a little bit. So basically what's happening here is SDR Uno is getting its data, its IQ data, which is using to produce this nice display, getting that from the RSP2 SDR radio, which is sat underneath the desk. So the SDR is pretty small, about the size of a pack of cigarettes, and that in turn, the SDR is getting its RF input from the pan adapter, which is fitted into the ICOM 7300 that I was talking about earlier. So yeah, so you can, well, this is not supposed to be a demonstration of SDR Uno because that would take forever, because it's got so many features, as you can see. It was just to show you what it kind of looked like, really. You can click on. We got what we got here. Well, we got Morse down the CW down the end here, down at the bottom of the band. We got probably FT8 there, or digital modes banging away there. 14074-ish. And then phone voice in the middle. So if we zoom in on the phone voice a little bit, click on somebody. There we go. So you just click where you want, or if you want to move with the mouse, you just spin the mouse wheel, and then, you know, you can obviously change how much. I tend to move in 0.5s. So you move to these guys, and then if you want to pan around, you just grab it here and move it backwards and forwards. So now obviously it's all hooked together, so if I pull over ICOM, Win for ICOM, so this is what Win for ICOM looks like, and I have that generally on my right hand screen, and then I've got SDR Uno all plastered over my left hand screen, and these two are, you know, hooked together via Omni-rig. If I go up here and hover over there, it says, yeah, there we go, assigning Omni-rig to control this VRX or virtual radio. So if I was to click on change bands to 40 meters, then there we go, it's changed to 7150, and so has our Win for ICOM. If I change to 15 meters, back to 20, and similarly if I unlock the LO, and then I change bands on Win for ICOM, then sure enough, SDR Uno will follow suit. So if I relock that again, I won't go again, I'm not going to go through Win for ICOM. You can see how feature rich it is. You know, you can control pretty much everything you want on the radio, and there's a load of other stuff under the hood that's not even on this display. So move that out of the way. Noisy. And if I move over Log for Old Men, there we go. And then if I change bands on SDR Uno, 40 meters, you can see that Log for Old Men follows suit. So yeah, pretty much it really. Whatever I do on any of these, it will follow suit. I don't know if I can. There we go. So if I'm now manually spinning the wheel on Log for Old Men, and sure enough, everything else is following suit. So if I move this over here, change this frequency on Log for Old Men, then both Win for ICOM and SDR Uno, and obviously the radio that you can't see because it's a bit more tricky because it's not on the screen, it's over the other side of the shack. Everything's following suit. So yeah, I know this is not rocket science, and I'm sure millions of people have done this before. I'm not doing anything special, I just thought I would demo it. So yeah, anything else you can say about this? I really like SDR Uno. It's really easy. Out of all the mute it a minute, out of all the waterfalls and spectrums of different pieces of software I've tried, I think the SDR Uno display is the nicest to use. And as I say, if I fire this up in the house using my virtual USB over LAN virtual USB over LAN, and I fire SDR Uno up in the house, then it's exactly the same as using it here. I don't notice any difference, to be honest. It's just as responsive, and it works just as well. So it's getting noisier now, isn't it? So what's 40 meters looking like? I mean, moving these display, you've got a little setting here, so you can change the waterfall contrast, gain. You can move the whole thing up and down as you see fit, depending on what sort of noise levels you got in the background. There's loads of stuff. FFT averaging, palettes. There's endless amounts of things you can. And once you've set it all up, you can then you can save different workspaces. So this just happens to be my default workspace. But if you want to move the windows around, or I mean, there's tons of other windows that I've not even got up here. If you want to customize it, the look of the windows, size of the windows, positions of the windows, and all the rest of it, you can just save them as different workspaces and then call them up as you want. And it's really solid. I mean, it doesn't crash. It just works. It always works. So anyway, thanks for watching. Trying to think if there's anything else I can show, really. Well, let's see if I think of anything, I'll tag it on the end. Anyway, thanks for watching. Golf 7 India Yankee Kilo Killer.